Welcome to 032 Conversations, the podcast where we talk to creatives, see how they live, and how they do their work. I'm your host, Carlo Villarica. Woo! The wife and I are back. We just came from a Vietnam trip. It was our first time in Ho Chi Minh. Nice place. It reminded me a lot about the Philippines. Like, even the people kind of look the same. If you look at the people as a whole, then you can tell, okay, there's a difference. But if you're looking at like just one or two Vietnamese, they kind of look like Filipinos, and a lot of similarities. There's the weather is basically the same heat as us. Even the cities kind of look the same. Take away the obvious language difference, and then like not many places have like English signs out like here in the Philippines. But if you take all that away, it kind of looks like a Filipino city. Now the big difference is, at least here in Cebu compared to in Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh, there's like a lot of like really old buildings, and then they don't really have malls there. I guess there are malls, but they're high-end malls, and most of the people there have like stores by the streets, which made walking the streets really fun. It was nice to see all the different stores all over the streets. And for me, whenever I visit a new city, my favorite thing to do is just walk around. But the thing about walking around in Ho Chi Minh is that it feels like a death-defying act. Like you're literally risking your life every time you cross the street. Now, if you don't know, like Ho Chi Minh, like a lot of the vehicles, it's kind of similar to the Philippines in the sense that there's cars and there's motorcycles. But in Ho Chi Minh, and I guess the whole Vietnam, there's a lot of motorcycles. I think they have like maybe times 5 the number of motorcycles, or times 10 the number of motorcycles that we have compared to the Philippines. They have a lot of motorcycles. It's crazy. So you have a lot of like these motorcycles just whizzing by, and then you also have the fact that, and then this isn't like a slur or anything, but this I guess it's a known fact. They do not follow the rules. I overheard this in the airport on our way back to the Philippines. We were in the Vietnamese airport, and then there was a guy who walked behind me. He was escorting what seemed like a pilot. I don't really know, but he was escorting, and then I just overheard it, and he said, we're in Vietnam, we don't follow rules." So walking the streets in Vietnam was crazy. The motorcycles ignored the stoplights, ignored one-way roads, ignored the fact that pedestrian sidewalks are for pedestrians. There was, during the rush hour, there was this like crazy intersection. Well, a lot of the motorcyclists were just stuck there waiting for the light to pass so that it would be their turn, right? So there's a lot of traffic coming in and out. And then the other motorcycles from the back would go to the pedestrian lane, would go to the sidewalk, and then just use the sidewalk as the expressway through the intersection. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2 or 3 guys. Like it basically became part of the road. There was a lot of motorcyclists there. It was pretty crazy. If you follow the Monday Musings newsletter, I wrote a few of my thoughts on Vietnam, on Ho Chi Minh, in the newsletter, and then hopefully in a week or so I'll release like some pictures that I took from Ho Chi Minh, and I might include a few words to describe the place. It was a lot of fun. And then not to mention, we got to taste a lot of really good Vietnamese food. We tried the banh mi, of course, a pho or a pho or a pho. I don't know how to pronounce it. That soup. It was really good. And a bunch of like Vietnamese street food too. That was interesting. I can't really place the names. They had like that like Vietnamese pizza, like street food pizza. I wasn't a fan of the street food pizza. There was like rice, like a dried rice, thick, crusty thing. I forget the name too. That was really good. And then overall, the wife and I had a great time in Vietnam. One of the highlights was a motorcycle tour that we did, and then they showed us like how a regular Vietnamese person lives, and then we went through their like. That's where we tried the regular food, the street food, and then we ended that day just chilling by the river, drinking some beers with a great view. So that was fun. And the other highlight was the joining a Vietnamese cooking class. We cook in the house, like the wife and I, we cook, but we wouldn't consider ourselves good cooks or chefs by any measure. But hopefully, we did the cooking class. They gave us some recipes. Hopefully, we're going to try a few Vietnamese-inspired dishes over here. We'll see how that goes. And, of course, we tried the Vietnamese coffee. It was fine. I mean, I'm more of a fan of like the specialty coffee, right? But the Vietnamese coffee with the like super strong beans with the condensed milk and a little sweetness. I guess the condensed milk has the sweetness in it, so it was fine. It was nice. It was good. It was a good drink. I wouldn't drink it every day, right? But of course, we found a specialty coffee place, and I bought some beans. It was called the Workshop, and that was fun. And speaking of food, make sure to visit Mr. Griddle. Yep, they're right beside Country Mall in Banilad. It's one of the favorite places of my wife and I to eat nice, casual food. They have cheeseburgers, and I'm a big fan of the fried chicken burger. There's veggie burgers as well, and they're very family friendly. We love bringing our kids there. They always make sure to ask for a Chucky. Even the wife and I even have like this little theme song whenever we go to Mr. Griddle. We sing it with the kids when they're in the car, like Mr. Griddle, Mr. Griddle, Griddle, Mr. Griddle, Mr. Griddle. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop singing. But visit Mr. Griddle. We're a fan of their food. The Banilod Road beside Country Mall, or follow them on Instagram.com/Mr. Griddle, MistrGriddle, Mr. Griddle. Good food for your tummy. In this episode, we talked to two people. I ran into my cousin. Her name's Lianne Sala, and she's responsible for an NGO called Sistemang Pilipino. I ran into her in like a birthday party, a kid's birthday party, and I asked her what she was up to. And I thought it would be a really good perspective to have for anybody who wants to run an NGO or a charity, or anybody who's trying to make an impact in that way in the world. So I thought she would be a really good guest for the podcast. And then she told me that I should also interview her partner in the NGO. His name is Aurelio Maria Rodriguez, and he's the Community Development Director for Sistemang Pilipino. He's also an organizational development consultant for NGOs. And this conversation really gave me a peek into what the NGO life is like, into what it is like to run like a non-profit organization or a charity, and all the struggles that they go through. But at the same time, I also got to hear the real change that they've been able to impart on to fellow Filipinos. Now, like seriously, like through music, they were able to legitimately change people's lives, and And then we talked about that. So I feel like if you are interested in starting an NGO, joining an NGO, or something of that nature, then I think this is a good way to get started. Listen to this episode, take notes, and really see how this can help. I hope so anyway. I hope it can help. There's so many people, they try to do good, they try to start a charity, or they try to start an NGO, and sometimes there's a lot of real legitimate challenges and struggles, like where do they get the funding? Do they even need funding? What do they do with the funding? What does it mean to start a non-profit organization? Independent of government, independent of other businesses. Now, do you need them? In the case of Sistemang Pilipino, it's an NGO that makes a difference through music, or through teaching kids music. We talk about it more in the podcast. Before we get to it, though, make sure to subscribe to 032 Conversations. I listen to, sometimes I'll talk to people and then I ask them about if they listen to podcasts, and then they'll listen. They'll give out a podcast or something. They'll give out, like, say, Joe Rogan. But most of them listen through YouTube. But actually, the best way to listen to a podcast is through your phone, when you're on your commute, when you want to listen to something interesting while you're doing something else. So I like to listen through a podcast app called Pocket Casts. But really, you can download Google Podcasts. You can listen to podcasts on Spotify, and of course the iTunes, the iPhone, the Apple phone has a podcast app as well. I don't own an iPhone. I don't use Apple products, but whatever. So yeah, so there's that. So there's a podcast app. Try downloading that. Subscribe to 032 Conversations. We have a new episode every Tuesday. Let's get to the interview.
Quite a relaxed one, but yes.
What do you mean by relaxed?
There's some people who spend so many hours practicing, their instrument, and it's really it makes them alive to be on stage as a soloist or with others. But it's, for a long time now, mine has been sometimes to be at the service of the church when there's an event, but I don't really feel the inspiration to be on stage. I'm happy to be watching people perform in concerts. So, I don't know. I call myself a relaxed violinist.
Oh, okay. You never got that high from being on stage, like performing?
No.
I remember when we'd play as a band, the part that I enjoyed the most was right after a really good performance, like everything was clicking, and then you're doing fun stuff. It's a little bit improvised, there are portions, and then after the gig, we would talk about it. We'd talk about it amongst ourselves and be like, "Oh, bye! Remember that part and this song," and then and then sometimes we'd just hang out for 2 or 3 hours just talking. It just felt really good. You don't have the same experience.
No, it's more spiritual these days. I mean, like, I think at IT Park there's this outreach thing every Friday by this several different communities. Mm-hmm. I think we did a little performance for them, instrumental. It was very no words. It was just brought us into silence. Uh-huh. I like that kind of stuff nowadays.
Oh.
Yeah. So. Yeah, quiet music.
But you used to teach, diba?
Yes, 4 years.
Where again?
Through Batig, through the old foundation, no? From the year 2007 to 2011, and 3 of its partner schools around Cebu. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oyo's here, so perfect. Just up towards the beginning.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, sige, let's wait for him to come in.
Sige.
Hello. Hi. Carlo. Oyo, hello. Have a seat. We're just. I know that Sistemang Pilipino basically has something to do with music, but I think it somehow stems with your love for music. Lianne, is that correct?
Yes, Carl. It's actually a worldwide movement, and it started in Venezuela about 1975. And about less than 10 years ago, there was a documentary film made about it, which opened the eyes of a lot of people around the world.
What's the name of the film?
Tocar y luchar, to play and to struggle. So it was made around 2007. So, it's 12 years ago, I guess. And a bit after the release of that video, a lot of people became aware of what was possible for their own communities. So that started like several independent movements, some carrying the name Sistema, others not. But it's quite a large network of people with similar goals.
El Sistema.
Yeah.
So you were inspired by this. But even before that, like there's a reason why I guess you chose music to be this avenue for you to do good.
Yeah.
Diba? So, I mean, how did your love for music start?
Yeah, it's been in the family for a long time. So, from my grandmother, Pilar, I think she studied voice and piano for college in Manila. And she started the first formal school of piano here. I mean, really studio stuff. So that was 1946. And when she passed away in 1989, her children, particularly Ingrid, her daughter, wanted to honor her mom's memory with a music training program. And somehow they were inspired to come up with an orchestra development program. So I was one of their first students, very relaxed. So they had their scholars who were really working very hard, and then the private students were a bit relaxed. So I was one of the relaxed ones, unfortunately. Haha. But so that's how it started. It was a very casual question from my parents. Do you want to learn violin? I said, yeah, sure. So it was a free invitation. And so I think around the age of 16 or 17, I got invited to an international violin conference in Singapore. And I got to see different kids from around Asia. Even if they didn't speak the same language, they knew the same pieces. So even if they couldn't talk to each other, they could play it together. Like one would play a piece that everybody knew, so they'd all play even if they couldn't talk to each other.
Really?
Yeah, so I found it really cool. I think that's when I really saw, and I would join those conferences in Manila and abroad, for a few years. And I saw that the teachers, the very high level teachers, they had new ways of teaching old things. So before, if I hadn't seen that, I wouldn't have been inspired to teach music. So being exposed to conferences and camps abroad really opened my mind and my eyes to what's possible. So it was my first, that's what carried me into being certified as a teacher in violin. And, so I did a year of leadership training also in the US and Manila. And I think after that, I said, I think it's really in music where I can make a difference. So that's what started 2007. I started teaching violin. And soon after, organizing for artists to come here, high-level artists to come and train our teachers, do workshops, outreach concerts. So that was already there. And the vision became...
So you were doing this on your own at this point, more or less?
Through the school that I was teaching in.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. They had already...
Where were you teaching?
In Batig.
Oh, yeah, okay, in Batig, yeah.
The Sala Foundation, as others know it. So, from 2007 to 2011, I was teaching there and in their 3 partner schools. And then in the middle of that, in October 2009, we had a professor from Manila. He was here to do violin teacher training and basic conducting training. And at the end of that program, he had a documentary film that he showed us. And it broadened my vision because I already knew there was so much work in music.
That's the Tukari Lochar.
Yes. Yeah. And so basically what is a Sistema program, no? It's a program that provides music education to children from underserved communities. And its 2 main goals are social transformation, meaning the character and other aspects of the person, and musical excellence. So, yeah.
But you didn't start it right away after you saw that documentary, right?
No, I approached a lot of people and shared the video with them, and the answer was usually, it's nice, but how? How do we start? So finally, in May 2011, we had a concert from my teacher, Gil Lopez Cabayao, and one of the members of the Aboitiz family who was with Rafi at the time knew what El Sistema was. So when I talked to her about it, it was someone who already knew what it was and really wanted to look into bringing it here. So they're one of the first groups to support us with that.
So that's how you got connected to Rafi.
We invited them to a concert, yes. I ran into one of their directors for culture and heritage a few months before this May concert in 2011. And they sent us some students, some audience members, and yeah.
Yeah, to be clear, the Rafi is the Ramon Aboites
Foundation.
What's
Incorporated.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how Rafi got involved.
Yes.
So, but I understand you had this sort of immersion pa, diba?
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. So I traveled to the US for 4 months from January to May 2012. And the first part of that activity was they were also having at the time the first international symposium for El Sistema. So they had about 300 leaders from all over the world who wanted to build El Sistema in their countries. And so basically we had workshops, we were watching concerts, and we had classes for just 4 or 5 days. So I got to meet a lot of the Sistema leaders. And one of them, he was responsible for the poster Sistema program in the US, YOLA, Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles. He told me that there were 12 main programs around the US that he really recommended I visit. And he said he was willing to introduce me to the ones I didn't know yet. So I visited about 12 different communities of El Sistema around the US for 4 months. And it was a very in-depth interview also with the leaders of Sistema. It was, how did you start in a life of music? How did you discover Sistema? What does it take for you to keep your program going? What direction are you taking it? What are you up against? Those kinds of questions. So to understand what it took, their own journey and where they were in Sistema. So after that, I came home, talked to some people, and again, it was somebody from Rafi who told me that it seemed we had enough information to start an NGO already. So we should set up our board of trustees and register with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So we did that around 2012.
Yeah, but before we get to that, so from that immersion, that's 4 months?
Yeah,
4 months.
4 months.
What did you learn from that? So I would suspect that you were able to get like an in-depth, you're there.
Yeah.
So you're not just reading it, you're getting an in-depth look at what they're able to do, their wins basically, but at the same time their challenges, diba? So what did you learn from that experience?
Well, the easiest answer is, I think out of the 4 months, in the middle of that, when I was revisiting a certain program in San Diego, a very good orchestra program, I realized I had all the information I needed to set up a Sistema program, but not yet the lakas loob, not yet the confidence. Because I knew it was not going to be easy. So I said, I was, so thankful I still had 2 months to prepare myself to get home and start the actual work. My first experience of the Sistema leaders was, it felt like a family. Even if I had met them for the first time, it felt like I had known them for many years already. There was, I guess, a similarity of spirit and heart. So even if we had very different backgrounds, we had this, we were moved by the same inspiration. So I felt like I was meeting family members. I felt like I was meeting family members, even if I'd never met them before. With a lot of them. So with majority of them, I had very good connections, very good conversations. And I guess it's a little gift to be able to have a universal connection and not feel so much the difference of the race. Yeah.
How about you, Olio? How did you get... were you there since the beginning, or...?
Well, the start of the organization, yes, I was there. Now, when we really started the program, and that was in 2013. No, but my experience is a little bit, it's parallel to that of Lianne, but a little bit different. No, I didn't know El Sistema. No, I didn't know. But anyway, I grew up in a family of artists and musicians. I was the only one who was not an artist nor a musician.
Okay.
I was an athlete because I felt that I will never be better than my brothers and sisters. No, and so I had to find something that I would be better than them, no, or I can be better than
I like it, I
them.
know, when you're young and then you just want to stand out in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah, that's it. And also coming from, because they're very talented, no, pride gets into it also, no. So I never went into music, or I love music. No, I woke up to music every day. My sister playing the piano, my brother composing songs, playing the guitar, my mother singing, all that, no. And then another part of the reality in the family is that our house was like a social center. My mother brought in poor people, poor families, and we took care of them. We had a small farm. I grew up in a small farm, and so we
Where'd you
lent
grow up?
in Rizal.
Rizal. Ah,
Rizal.
okay. Up in Luzon.
I'm not from Cebu. Yeah, I'm from Luzon. I'm really from Tarlac, but I grew up in Rizal, in San Mateo. It's a small farm, and there's also a whole story about that, but that doesn't matter anymore here. Anyway, so my parents would get families. We build house for them inside the farm, and they would stay there and take care of them. They help us, if they want to. No, but we don't force them. And sometimes you would just pick up somebody from the streets and bring this boy home, and we'll try to look for his family, things like that. No? So I grew up in that environment. It was very beautiful. But it was late in my life that I started to discover that I have certain gifts in terms of art. No, in fact, I became a visual artist. I started painting, but it was quite late. I was already 20 plus, 25, I think. And then I went through my life. I went to Italy for 3 years. I did some exhibits there.
Oh, really? For your art?
Yes.
that's
some
cool.
Small ones, not the big one.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
but it's
Yes.
always good when you're putting. Well, a lot of people have a hard time just putting their art out there. They don't want to show it. Ba?
Yeah. Me, I was never afraid of, putting it there out. No, I mean, you say what you want. That's my work. That's my expression. No, so I went into that, but I also didn't have much time. So at a certain point, I am not doing, for a long time now. I've not been painting, and since a lot of people are asking me to make designs, so I got into graphic arts a little bit. And then because of my work in a social center in Tagaytay, when I came back from Italy, I didn't want to spend on somebody who would document all our events, so I got into photography, and I now some of my pictures are published in magazines, and so I became a sort of an artist also. But all those years, I've always felt that art, music also, it's a great tool, to form, especially young people, to become better persons. Because I saw how it transformed me also. When I started painting, I remember I used to have violent tendencies.
What do you mean?
I get angry easily and I become
violent.
Violent. Yes, violent.
Oh.
No, not violin.
I
Violent.
said violin. I'm like, what?
Violent.
Oh.
Not violin. When I was younger. So I did many things anyway. Let's not talk about that anymore. But when I got into painting, I found my peace.
It's like an outlet also.
Yeah, it was like an outlet. In fact, some of my paintings then were a bit surreal, were a bit dark, but people, somehow, some people always saw beauty in it. And I realized how much art can really transform a person. So I wanted to use art and music. So I started small programs in the center where I was working. I was a director. And I started...
This is in...
Tagaytay.
Tagaytay, okay.
I was a director of a social center, Pag-asa Social Center.
Okay.
And I started a program in guitars, So I got somebody to teach the kids, a group of 20, And then I started a theater group. I started a dance troupe, things like that. I started workshops on painting, on photography, in the center. And I saw how much it changed these young
students.
people, the students. No, before they couldn't even work with each other, things like that. No, now they're happy working together. They couldn't produce anything together. They would fight. No, but then because they come from very poor areas, but then after the lessons, they become the atmosphere changed, and they learned how to work with each
So you
other.
saw firsthand how art
Yeah.
can help, especially kids.
Yes.
They're at that age where if they have so much energy and if it's not put in the right place, it
Yeah.
can be detrimental
Yes.
to them.
Even dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have, because I worked in a social center. I had to invent many things to help these kids, no? And so one of the things that I used was art and music.
So what brought you here to Cebu?
That one is also another long story. No, I am part of a community. No, it's called the Focolare, and I'm a missionary. So I got assigned here. I was assigned before in Tagaytay, and I had that job, no, as a director of the social center. But then after 6 years, they asked me to transfer here because they needed somebody here, and so I transferred, no, 10 years ago, 2009. But still, that desire to use arts and music to help out kids, to help form them, become better persons, was always there. But I never had the chance, nor enough tools, nor enough resources to do it. Also, I didn't have much time because I'm part of a community, and I did so many things. No? But then in 2012, I think, my cousin, who is her friend, pianist,
Okay.
yes, messaged me and said, do you know Lianne Sala? I said, no, I barely know anyone here in Cebu except for the members of our community, And then he introduced me, and he said, Lianne, and she wants to do social work, things like that. That's how we explained using music. When he said, with music, I felt a certain resonance inside me. And he said, why don't you message her? And so I messaged Lianne, and she invited me to a meeting. But then I wasn't able to come. No, 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. And 1 year passed. No, and it was. I mean, when things fall into place. No, 1 year after 1 year.
But this
normally,
was also when you were doing your immersion.
what?
The mic, please.
Only 4 months. Yeah.
So basically, in August 2018, we were gathering several people from different backgrounds.
2018 eh.
Sorry, now we're getting our numbers wrong. 2012, sorry. August
okay.
18, 2012, not August
Okay.
12, 2018. Sorry. So in August 2012, we gathered some friends from different backgrounds to talk about Sistema and how we would be starting soon, how they might want to cooperate or support the work. So that's the meeting he missed. There were at least 18 people, so it wasn't like just me and him, and he didn't show up. So yeah, that was the first meeting. And then a few months, December, so that was August. And then December that year, he sent Christmas messages to a lot of people, and he can continue from here.
And so I normally send messages to everyone who is in my contact list. And so she was one of those. And she answered me. And I started thinking, but who is this lady? I don't know her. But then she started, and then I said, this is the friend of my cousin. So I started talking to her, and finally we met, no? And then she presented it to me, what she wanted to do. And in the beginning, my thoughts were, okay, I'll help you. No, I'll help you. But then she said, why don't you come work with me? I said, But at that time, I was supposed to be reassigned to another country in Africa, in Kenya. Yeah, it was in Kenya. But so I told her, look, I'm about to be assigned, but I will ask, if they will allow me to stay here. And so I asked, and they allowed me to stay. But I remember that day when we were talking, one of the things that I told her was, look, I know the NGO life. I know what it takes, and you will go through a lot of difficulties. That's part of
Yeah,
part of it.
which we will get to.
Yeah. And I said, you have to have enough courage to face them. Even to the point, I remember very well, I said, even to the point, maybe you will have to close it. No? But I'm with you. No? I said, this I want to do. No, I really want to do this. And so I started working with her. No? And then the story goes on after that.
So you already did your immersion at this point.
Yes, I arrived in May 2012 and the first meeting was in August. And then we met in January 2013. Yeah.
Then you started Sistemang Pilipino.
That month, we got our SEC registration January 15, 2013. So I met him a few days before that, but the papers were already in process. The Board of Trustees were already there.
Okay, so for like somebody who doesn't know what Sistemang Pilipino is,
Yeah.
it's based on the El Sistema
Movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what exactly? Tell me about it. What exactly is Sistemang Pilipino?
Okay. So basically, for us here in Cebu, it's an organization that provides children from underserved communities the opportunity to be formed as persons through music.
So you give classes, or how does that work? What is that?
So basically, we have two groups we're developing for now: the orchestra and the choir. So the orchestra meets about 3 times a week as a group with their teacher. So the strings naman, it takes more individual attention, no, for the string instruments. So sometimes they schedule individual lessons once a week with the teacher and then once as a group. So there's violin, viola, bass, and cello and bass, the 4 string instruments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do these students get chosen? Do they just show up, or how do they even know that it's there, that Sistema Pilipino is there?
That's right. We have to do our own part looking for the students, sometimes by approaching communities. In the case of our cello section, they all come from one area around Pardo. That's because we know our program director knows a musician whose father is such a supporter of music education. So this musician's younger brother studied with our program director, and the dad rounded up their other neighbors, poorer neighbors around that area. So 4 or 5 of them come regularly for training. That's
okay.
Yeah. There are different ways that are.
So he's like a champion for what you guys are doing.
Very much. Yeah.
What's another example? Like, what's another way of how some of these kids found Sistemang Pilipino?
Yeah, right now, most of our choir members come from Talamban National High School. That was also another providential development because I was at a gathering of some people, maybe for a philosophical conversation, and one of them was the principal of this school. And we had just produced a big concert at the time, so even if it had nothing to do with the conversation, people would relate the conversation to our concert. So the principal of this school approached me after the meeting and he said, we want to develop our choir in our school. Can you help us? I said, yeah, sure. So we went and we held auditions there. And so far, out of the 3 or 4 communities of choirs that we've looked for throughout the years, this one is the most on fire, and they're so grateful for the training they received. So,
what do you mean by on fire? What does that
I mean on fire. I mean they're not lukewarm. They're very
passionate. They're legit passionate
they're passionate about
what
it.
they're doing.
And they're very grateful for the training they receive and the opportunity to perform. Yeah.
So, in a way, that was also another champion, in a sense, no?
Yeah.
So it's really about finding the right individuals who can connect you to these kids.
And to be responsible for it over a period of time, not just ask us to come and then leave us there.
Yeah. And then, do they have to shell out anything in that sense, or?
It depends on the community. If they don't have the capacity, then we subsidize, we cover the whole thing. But in this case, if they, I think they chip in about 2/5 of the trainer's fee. And then we cover the 3/5 of it. And on Saturdays, it's completely on us. On weekends. So twice a week, our teacher goes to their school to train the kids. And then at the weekend, they come to our site. Yeah.
Okay, so how many students has Sistemang Pilipino helped? How long? So you guys, since 2013,
13, yeah.
I know. I guess it's a ballpark figure.
Yeah. For all those who've started with us and left, maybe about 200 already.
Oh, yeah?
200 to 300, yeah. Not counting, of course, the audiences from the outreach concerts. That's another figure. But for those who've received training, minimum of 200. Yeah.
So what do you mean the audiences from the?
Because we do outreach concerts
Okay.
sometimes. Yeah.
Just to show people like, oh, this exists, this kind of music, this is the possibility this is what you can do,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Well, when you present a really good musical program, it already has it speaks its own message, no, to the audience. So I'm trying to remember. So basically, we have either outreach concerts where we develop audiences to appreciate good music, and then we have our fundraising concerts, which is just a minority. It's not very, it's a small number of people. So those are the two main kinds. The outreach ones to develop the audience in their appreciation and understanding of music. The kids are not the main performers. They're like the icing on the cake. They can do one or two numbers at the beginning or the middle, but we usually get high-level artists to cover the main program.
Yeah, because I guess also the whole idea for Sistemang Pilipino is to get these kids to love the music, to focus their energies on that, no?
Yeah.
Do you have any examples is there a story you can tell me about a specific?
Student?
You're nodding your heads, I'm guessing yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Luigi. Oh, you talk about Luigi. You know him better.
I'll say a game, do it.
Okay. Now, so Luigi is part of our community.
Who is this, Luigi?
Luigi, what's his family name? Erauda. No, he's a young boy. Now he is in senior high, no? I think, yeah. He lives in because as I've said, I'm part of the Focolare. Now, the Focolare has a social center here. It's called BP Cebu Foundation. Now, the family of Luigi lives in the housing that this center built, no? And one day, the mom comes to me and asked, no, because she learned about what I'm doing. And because she has 3 boys, they're all artists. One likes filmmaking, the other one likes designing, and this one loves music. Mm-hmm. And so started asking me, and I said, okay, I will ask, no? And I asked, and he came, no? He's from Liloan, it's very far.
Yeah.
But he's always consistent in coming to our lessons, even late already, in CEC. No, here in Leon Kilat in downtown. No, from Liluan he will really travel, and the parents are very supportive. No, but Luigi, he's not that talented. Really,
there's no innate talent. There's people who have like kung sa basket. I mean, if you're really tall, you have a good. In a way, that's a talent. But so he's not innately musical, you think, or kanang.
He doesn't. It's not that he completely doesn't have any talent, no. But he is not like others who are really talented, no, in terms of music. His talent is consistency and faithfulness, and really discipline. And
he works hard.
He works hard. He really works hard, no. But the biggest transformation here it's a beautiful story because so he continues to study with us. The mother and the father, they don't really understand classical music. But this boy, he would always come home and tell his mom, "Come, you listen to me, I'll play." And the mother would say, at the beginning I was listening to him and I felt bored. I really felt I wanted to leave, but he's my son, so I have to But then slowly, she said, I saw how Luigi, from a very timid boy who says nothing at home, now shares so many things to me about Sistema, about how his day went, no? But I have to listen to his music, no? And slowly I learned to love his music. And now I am the number 1 fan. she shared in her experience, no? And in fact, they support him so much. No, this last Thursday and Friday, there was a concert by it's another group. Maybe Lianne can explain later. Sinfonia. No, our program director works with them. Now Luigi also plays with this group. No, it's a higher orchestra level, and the parents were there. No? And they were so proud. No, they were so proud of their son. And now Luigi, he talks. He expresses himself. Before he was so quiet. He doesn't say anything. No, he's just there, quiet. No,
So it really helped develop his character,
it
no?
did. It did. No, and then we have other kids, more difficult ones, more difficult situations. The thing is, for Luigi, it didn't only transform him, but also his family. No, because the children are. Three of them are artists. Only their sister is different. No, and so they're very timid. But this studying of Luigi with us, no, opened up the lines among them in terms of communication. No, so they started to talk more as a family. They started to. So it didn't only transform Luigi, no, but also his family.
That's great. And, yeah, that's I like hearing stories like that because one of the themes that when I interview, the show is about interviewing creatives actually, and then one of the themes that I hear a lot, especially from artists or musicians, is when they grew up, sometimes their family is like, oh yeah, makakwarta ka na, like kanang, you get what I'm saying? So, and then, well, actually, right now in 2019, yeah, makakwarta ka. Especially like if you grew up like learning to draw or doing graphic art. Wow, there's so much work there currently. And then but I think also a lot of times parents fail to see, not just parents, but people fail to see the benefit that, especially to a young child, but a benefit that they can get if you give them an outlet to focus on, if you give them, like you were just talking about Luigi, he was being very consistent, he was very disciplined, and then I remember like when I was younger, I learned an instrument, I play guitar, and then really it's sitting down in front of a speaker and then just pressing cassette tape pa man to at the time. It's pressing play and rewind, and then just trying to repeat the thing, and it's probably an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of like really boring, repetitive stuff. But that's something that's very valuable, especially when you're growing up. No, and then it's good to hear stories like that. No, you have another one, another.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. So I have two in mind. I'm wondering which one to start with. You can share about that one. Okay. So at least because usually in music education in general, there's quite a low retention rate. You start off with 100 students and you end up with 70, 50, 40, 30. The numbers go down. So at least, one of the first communities we started with was an orphanage in 2013, the summer of 2013. So at least one of them is still with us until now. She's already 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And in fact, after a few months of our presence there, they called us to a meeting to say that she'd really improved a lot, because of our program. She was motivated to wake up early, to be on time, to do her chores. So for a while, she was doing well. So we went through her ups and downs. We would have meetings about her downs usually. But they said it was an overall upward trend in spite of the occasional downs. But around the second year that we were there, or second or third summer, they said things were getting too difficult for her in her adoptive home within that village. They asked if I knew of a foster family. So I asked around my network. And one of them was another Sistema family, very simple Sistema family, but they're used to taking in adoptive kids from their distant relatives for periods of time. So I said, there's this kid from SOS. Are you willing to take her in? And they said, yeah, okay. I said, for a few months. They said, for as long as she needs. So I said, okay. So she's been with them for at least 3 years now. And we found also this foundation in Oyo's movement that covers her education. So they pay for her tuition at school. And we've been with her for 5 years, through all her ups and downs, dropping out of school, fighting with her adoptive mom, all of these things. And well, this is sensitive information, but we do have some professional help for her to help process everything she's been through.
Sounds like she had a tough life, sad ba?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was her benefactor in Manila actually, because when this kid dropped out of school, grade 11 already, we gave her one last chance. I said, we've been giving you chances for 5 years. You're already 18. This is your last chance. If you don't, we're gonna let you go back to school, and it's your last chance from us. Just know that. So she wrote a letter of gratitude, with all these promises to do well. And I showed it to her benefactor in Manila. And she said, yeah, she's a smart girl and I'm sure she's sincere, but given her background, I think she needs some help to process everything, I don't think she's going to have a very hard time keeping her promises. So we do also get her some help, some therapy. She's a very bright girl. She's quite independent and creative. At the beginning, she said she didn't want to be a musician because she wanted to make a real living. Smart kid. But somehow she had a change of heart these past 2 years. She said music really carries messages, that encourage.
What was she learning? What does she play?
She can sing very well, and she was learning the violin with us. She started with violin. She also is part of a choir now with another group, a partner organization of ours. But violin and singing, basically. So although we wouldn't say it's a success story completely, she still has a long way to go, I'm sure. But she has already also come a very long way in her own development, considering when she started and where she is now.
No, but that's real, that's it's the reality, I guess, for most people is that there really are ups and downs. No?
Yeah.
It's not always, because, we're also in this culture, people are celebrated, they're in front of the magazine, but, you don't know that those people are the half of half a percent. No?
That they have been photoshopped many
they've
times.
been photoshopped, but good. No, but so the reality is life can be hard. And then, so you guys are also really, it's more than just teaching them music. So in a way, there's a little bit of, I don't know. Yeah, you accompany them. Yeah. I don't know, do you guys mentioned you may have one more story, or do you wanna?
Sure, glad. Okay. Again, this guy instead is a part also of our movement, one of the young people in our movement. In the beginning, he wasn't going to school. No, he didn't finish high school. And he stayed in another project that we have that teaches upholstery. No, and he was learning there. At the same time, he took the ALS, Alternative Learning System exam, ALS from the DepEd.
What is that?
ALS, Alternative Learning System.
What does that mean? I don't know I'm not familiar with that.
You go through it. You go through it for a year. No, you study. There are modules. No, after that year, you'll take an exam, and they will try to determine your level. If you surpass your high school, then you graduate from high school.
Really?
Yes, it's ALS. And so he took that and he passed. And then he got a scholarship from the municipality. And so he went to study information technology. But then he realized, since he didn't go through high school, the mathematics was too hard for him, and so many things, the sciences and many things. And he was not used to going to school anymore. So
he was in college now. They put him to college.
Yeah, straight, yes. And so his life turned, and he started drinking, and didn't go to school, failed all his subjects, lost his scholarship.
Discouraged na
siya. No, so he started living that kind of life. Also, his background sa family, his parents never married, things like that. A really tough background, He learned to, when there's a problem here, he transfers to another house. Problem here, goes to the grandfather.
So he doesn't face his problems.
So he was never formed as a when he was young. No, he didn't have the skills to handle even his own life. To handle responsibility, really nothing. And so at a certain point, I said, "What can I do for this young boy?" I'd like to see him finish school because he's very intelligent. No, he's good. And so I thought, this guy loves music. He's part of a punk rock band. He's a drummer. No, and he plays the guitar also. And I know also that he likes listening to a bit of yung mga music na classical ba. So one day, I invited him sa house and I said, oh, you listen to this, you listen to this. You know the Piano Guys?
Sorry?
The group, the Piano Guys, you know this.
The Piano Guys?
Piano Guys, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's a cellist, music producer, and a pianist. No, they make amazing videos.
Really?
No,
The Piano Guys?
The Piano Guys. They mix a bit the classical and the contemporary. Or for example, they'll do Let It Go, but they mix it with
Okay,
classical
YouTube,
music.
YouTube.
Yeah, in YouTube
Okay,
you'll find them.
I will link to it in the show notes.
And so I made him listen to this. I think the mixture was One Republic and Beethoven, something
Okay.
like that. And he liked it so much and wanted to learn the cello because he heard. And then he asked me because he knew what I was doing. He said, "Can I learn the cello? Can you ask your?" I said, "No, you don't have commitment. You're not responsible. You're not like this." I really put him down. No, I said, "You show me first that you can handle it because to study music is really." And so he made all his effort, but I let it pass for a year. After a year, he was so insistent, I said, okay, I'll ask. So I asked our program director, and the program director accepted him. And so he started learning the cello. But it wasn't easy. No? Again, sometimes he will say he will come, and then he doesn't appear. No? But all this experience, also learning the cello, inspired him so much that he decided to go back to school. And he is studying now at Gullias Conservatory of Music, cello. No?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So he's doing it.
He's doing it. He's failing, and then he go through it again, and then he will pass. No, if he doesn't fail anymore, I think he will graduate next year or this year, something like that. But anyway, no, well, it's very difficult. Also in terms of financial problems, all those things.
Oh yeah, I have this riff again. The thing with school,
Yeah.
for me, like I didn't do well in school.
Yeah.
I did well enough to pass and get by within the allotted time. No, but the problem with the school, and then I don't get tired of saying this, is that it's a method of teaching. No, school in general, like mainstream school, it's a method of teaching that favors a certain
Yes.
way of learning. Now, if you're not if you don't learn a certain way, then you naturally get bored and you naturally look for other things to do. And yeah, the problem said with the way that school is that, so let's say math, for whatever reason, they teach it to you and then you don't do well in it. No? Because it's not, you don't like to learn that way. Not everybody likes to be, sit down in a class and then they show you on the board and then that's how you do it, and then you're supposed to replicate it. Not everybody learns that way. And then, since you don't learn that way, then they tell you, so this is your grade. So then they judge you.
Yes.
They tell you how good you are at it. If in fact they could even be wrong.
Yeah.
If it was taught a different way, for all you know, you could learn it so much better. Now, anyway, that's my problem with school in general.
Don't worry, I had the same problem, and I am a teacher actually.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yes, and I have also a different way of teaching. In fact, it's always very difficult for me to work in schools because I don't fit in the system. My way of doing things is too different for them. That I don't, in terms to the administration, I mean, it's very difficult. Now, my way is different. It's more open, more participative, more. It's just I don't do rankings. No, anyway, I cannot explain it right now.
Yeah, it's hard to it's hard to do a different. Like I remember, I was reading or listening to this thing. So a grade is essentially a reward, diba? And then if you give a kid a high grade, you're giving them a reward. And unfortunately, that doesn't work for creative pursuits, no? So I think they did a study in Amorag. They got these I think 3 classrooms, and then one class they said, okay, draw,
Yeah.
and then the one with the best picture gets a reward. They get a prize. Then the second class they said draw, and then they didn't say
Any reward.
anything. They didn't say there was going to be a reward, but they gave a reward to the best one anyway. No? But they didn't say that there was going to be a reward. And then the third class was the control group. They just said draw, and then nothing happened. No? And then they found out later on that the 2 classes that weren't given the motivation by a reward. Those kids were the ones more likely to pick up the crayons and the paper to just draw for the sake of drawing. So in fact the reward was demotivating to the kids, no? So kinda like, if you grow up, if you got a failing grade on in math, and then all of a sudden, for your next 5-10 years you're bad at math, and then it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy ba?
Yeah.
Wala lang. I don't know. I just wanted to get that out.
Don't worry, I have similar things about the system of, and I'm a math teacher.
You are a math teacher.
Yeah, because I came from engineering, and then I didn't like it. I stopped for many years, and then I went into, just to finish, I went into education, major in math.
Yeah, being a teacher, I think now is especially challenging because, Murag, what I just said, it's more. A lot of people are learning about that, ba? It's not like before. You really thought, like when I was in school, I really thought that this was the way to learn, and then you had no other option. No. So, but now it's like this is a little bit more mainstream, or these with the internet, these ideas are coming out there. So, I guess you're also pushing back, but at the same time, you're pushing back at the system that's been there for years.
For years, yeah. So it's not also easy. No, in fact, even for this guy, the school system doesn't really fit him. That's why it's very difficult. And I know the only thing is here in the Philippines, if you don't have that paper, with his situation, they are not. I mean, financially, they don't have anything. So I really wanted him to finish. I really want him to finish, at least to have something. Not so much, and also to learn a little bit of discipline because he's really, But anyway, this guy now, through the help also of Giovanni, even Lianne, now he's the one teaching our kids cello.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
So he's one of the teachers.
He's one of the teachers. We found out that he's quite good when it comes to teaching, quite patient, although sometimes he also gets irritated, but that the kids like him. So, and it's his talent to teach. You cannot make him play solo, but he can play in an orchestra. He has many, because of the way he grew up. But anyway, to me, from that young man who had no dreams, no nothing, just wanted to go through life just like that. Now there's direction. There is but it's tough. It's really tough to guide to accompany this. In fact, there's Giovanni, our program director. Sometimes will message me, look, he's like this, like that, and then I'll have to talk to him, and then I'll tell Giovanni, now this time you talk to him. The 3 of us, we always work in that way with these kids. Sometimes she will talk to this kid. Sometimes I'll be the one. Sometimes it will be, and we have different styles. And it helps them.
Of course, yeah.
It helps them.
Is it like I guess it's really difficult because you keep mentioning his like more the background. It's if you come from a difficult background, it can sometimes mold it. Obviously, it does. I guess it really molds you as a person. No.
For example, he doesn't have really the roots of having a family. So he wasn't trained really to be with people. So when he doesn't like something, he just goes. He leaves.
Just leaves. Doesn't face it. Doesn't
face it. And then when he feels it's all okay already, he comes back.
As if nothing happened.
Oh, as if nothing happened.
It's a learned thing. Yeah. It's not something that you know how to deal with off the bat. And then there are certain good habits and certain bad habits as well. No? Yeah, so I was going to ask you about the different challenges of running this organization, but you guys mentioned that already. Like when you're dealing with people, it really is quite challenging. Aside from that aspect of it, what are the other challenges of doing this thing
Of
that you guys
NGO
are
life.
doing? NGO life. The NGO life.
Yeah. So the biggest question for any non-profit organization is income, is funding. That's why the term now we always hear is about sustainability, not just for the environment, but how do you actually sustain an organization, whether it's, a school. Well, ours is actually like a school, not an academic one, but a music one. You can maybe edit this part out later, but I think the longest a college of music has lasted in Cebu is 10 years at most. We don't have to name them, but there's two very decent Catholic schools
Do I
here.
need to edit this out? This doesn't sound like I need to edit this out.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. It's not a secret.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
10 years is...
There's a song for kids called Music Alone Shall Live.
Sorry?
Music Alone Shall Live.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, if the angels sing. So, okay. Where were we? Sorry.
Yeah, so
So I mean, like the longest a college of music has lasted here is 10 years. No? And this Gulias, they're doing a really great job. I think it's their 4th year, and we pray they really continue because they're producing great students, graduates. Yeah. So, and to consider that our work is not even for a college diploma, it's for kids to learn music. In the first community where we taught, the funding's always going to be a question, I think, no? I think to myself, how would I feel if one day someone said, I'm giving you a check for 100 million pesos? I think I'd only be like maybe 10-20% relieved because that's only 10 or 20% of the equation. There's the managing the students, there's the board of trustees, the directors, the students, the partner organizations. We're always up against something. Having money isn't a guarantee that we're going to be successful. So it does help to make sure that the program runs uninterrupted. But beyond the uninterrupted running is the effectivity, the results, and the fruits. The fruits are invisible, like the spiritual, the good things that happen, and we can't even see it. The results would be what piece are they playing, how well are they playing it, how many performances have we, the measurable things. And I think it was the famous conductor from Sistema who said, a program without results has no reason for being. So we always have to be results-oriented, even if we'd rather just be in it for the mission and for whatever good it does in the souls of the kids. We also have to have our eyes on quality and on results. And that really, the price of that is really a profound level of perseverance and fortitude. I understood that Sistema would take a very deep spirituality not to go crazy or to quit. So we do need to give ourselves time to rest when it gets really exhausting. I was at a gathering with a few older persons yesterday morning. It was a memorial mass for someone who had passed away. And a priest friend was there, and he said, if only these people who are doing this fundraiser for Naga, who are raising about 6 or 7 million pesos, if only they could channel that to there's a golf tournament, I think, in Country Club. They were talking about it. And
okay.
I think they were estimating 6 or 7 million pesos for Naga. And he said, if only they could channel that, to the music program. I said, yeah. We had some Japanese guests here last May, and one of them used to teach at the family's orchestra program for 5 years. And he said, Lianne, there's a lot of development in Cebu. Are these people supporting your work? I said, no. They're not. Why? What? They spend a lot for parties and, for things, no? And I said, yeah, for things that pass. So,
what do you mean?
Things that pass. It's a spiritual way of talking. All things are passing. I mean, anything in the world, it's passing.
Yeah.
But if you impact a life, that doesn't go.
Okay.
So a lot of people will spend on things that are passing. Just one night to impress their friends or to have fun. But when you're spending to make a difference in somebody's life, I guess it's hard for a lot of people to understand that. And a social investment. In fact, when Venezuela was in slightly better shape with their government, they would explain, the founder, he just passed away this past March, he would explain that, give me a second here. Okay, so that their support came from the public health budget of the government, because they were able to prove that their program kept kids in school out of trouble. It gave them higher chances of getting a job afterward. So it was good for the health of the public. It wasn't just a cultural thing, even if it is cultural and artistic.
That's smart, though.
Yes. He navigated them through 9 national governments. He got the support of 9 of the national governments in Venezuela. That's, yeah. So diplomacy and a great degree of creativity. Yeah. How to present it in a way in a language that they'll understand.
Yeah, because you're right. I get it, because it's hard to argue the cultural relevance, like, I mean, which by the way, even the cultural aspect of it does have a benefit. Like this whole podcast for me is my attempt to make the creative culture, creative community here in Cebu better. No, in that sense, from learning from each other and that sort of thing. But that said, it's hard to argue in terms of like getting funding for the culture. No? But that's really smart. He's able to prove that it's really for the public health, for the betterment of the health of its citizens.
Yes.
So that's how they got most of their funding, really through government.
Yes.
El Sistema.
Right.
And then,
yeah.
Sorry, what you were going to say?
Right now, they're going through a very bad time. No, it's very tumultuous in Venezuela. So I don't know how it's doing.
No,
but
nothing lasts forever.
Well, okay. That's the line for the day.
That's true.
No, but yeah. So how does Sistemang Pilipino get funding?
Okay, good question. So for the first 2 years, out of the 8 board of trustees, 4 of them had funding capacity. So we requested each of them to pitch in to keep the program going. So they did. They gave an initial amount, and then we did some fundraising concerts. At the time, to apply for a grant with Rafi, we needed a 2-year track record. So by our 3rd year, we were able to apply for a grant, which is really quite significant. It covered our program for 2 years, and we even extended that another 4 or 6 months. So Rafi was a huge part of our staying afloat on years 3 and 4, and then even for the 5th year, half of the 5th year. And then after that, it's hand to mouth again. These past months, it's been very tough, but we're also very close to our DSWD registration and license and our BIR tax exemption. At least our requirements. The ball is in their court, how long it will take to process that. But when we have tax exemption for our donors, even our own trustees are more willing to give from their companies. Tax exempt, they or their network would be willing to give a greater help if
because then it
tax
helps
exemption.
them tax-wise.
Yeah.
Wait, when they initially gave that doesn't show as a tax exemption, I guess.
No.
Okay.
That was
so in the beginning, it's really difficult to do something like that in the beginning.
Yes.
I guess, no?
Very, because you don't have people. You really have to have the trust of people that you're going to do your job well.
Yeah, Rafi doesn't give out grants regularly. It's just a one-time thing.
BIR has become a lot stricter now. So when we talked to them before the end of our first big grant, they said for them to give us another one, our next one, we already had to have this BIR tax exemption.
Okay.
Or they would be fined for it. So we're working on that. They're giving us smaller grants to get us by, like when we did a
because I would have thought that somebody like Rafi has, because it cannot be just give one time and then that's it, because you guys aren't a business,
right?
No, you're not providing a service in exchange for cash.
Yeah.
No, the people.
For foundation to understand that is one of the difficulties. That's why most foundation, they will fund you for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. Now, there's also reason behind it. No, but they don't understand very much that, this is not a business. No, this is not. If certain foundations, if you look into how they also survive, they're also depending on
grants.
On grants. No, that's a fact. But it's a discussion within the NGO world. No, it's another difficulty. Yes.
Yeah, because also, I think there's another misconception with NGOs is that I'm not sure. I'm blanking on the name right now. There's a huge charity in the U.S. I think they're called Charity Water. I think they make wells or something, and then the way they've combat that, because obviously NGOs have overhead. There are still things like rent, salaries, all that sort of thing, and then the way this, I believe this is Charity Water. I may be mistaken, but the way they've done it is, so they ask for donations, and then they ask you whether to put it into two buckets. Either it goes directly to getting water for these people, or you can donate to the charity, to their overhead. So most people donate to the water, but then they understand that there are some people, smarter, that will donate to the actual organization, to the overhead of that organization, because I think that's a lot of people's worry when they give out money. So let's say they give out, just to make a nice round number, 100 pesos. No, they want to know, the number one, the misconception is the 100 pesos goes directly to the people you're trying to help. But the reality is a percentage of that goes to the people that you're trying to help, and the other percentage goes to the organization. To keep the operation going, because there is a real cost for that also. And then, so the question is to people who know better now is, how much of my 100 pesos goes to these people? So the Charity Water, if I'm not mistaken, they've combated that by just saying you get to put your donation in either one of these two buckets. No? So you can say for certainty, 100, if you want it to go to the people without water, 100% of my funding went to these people. Or if you know more, then you understand the value of the organization. No, so I can see even that simple concept. That's why it's difficult to get funding, because a lot of people don't understand that simple concept also, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here in the Philippines, no. But when you're dealing with foreign donors, it becomes a bit of a difficulty to explain it to them. There's a standard. Now, for all donations that an NGO receives, 20% must go to administration.
Ah, really?
DSWD is very strict with that.
Oh.
At least 20%. Because DSWD understands that for this organization to survive, it must have money for the administration, for the operations, so that is a rule of standard of DSWD.
Oh, okay. That's a smart, to make it standard in a way is kind of smart.
But
it limits you. You can't do the Charity Water thing.
Also, a lot of, as you say, there are a lot of people who question that, especially foreign donors. Because I work with, I helped out this BP Cebu Foundation, and one of the problems that they have with their donors is practically that. In fact, I tried to explain it. I wrote a letter to the sponsors. I said, why did you not explain it before? No, you should have explained it already before. Now they're starting to understand. We made a letter to explain it to them, that how it goes. That this is the standard here in the Philippines, and this is the reason why. So it's a lot of work. They have around, I don't know how many sponsors right now. I think 200 individual sponsors, and you have to explain it to, and then you receive emails
for each and every one.
So it's tough. It's tough. And then, in additional, what we're trying to do, the concept here, a lot of Filipinos music. What do you get from that? Well, what do you earn from that? Will that help you survive? So there's always that stigma, about the arts and music, that you don't get, you don't survive with it, no. And so there are certain people who wouldn't support such an activity, such a project. No, so we need really to make. In fact, this outreach concerts is also a way to make people aware. No, it's a campaign also for awareness. No, what the arts and music can bring. No.
How often do you guys organize outreach concerts?
I like to say, as the spirit leads, according to who our guest artists are. Like, there was this time, we had a cellist from the US who was here, and also a pianist from the US. So we took advantage of that and took them to concerts, outreach concerts. We have a sister organization. It's called Sinfonia Academy Orchestra. And recently there's a conductor from Belgium who comes twice a year since about 2015. They just had two concerts last night and the night before, at minimum twice a year. And our choir sang also last night, some Polish Christmas songs, and so directly under Sistema, the kids have 2 performances in a year, on their own. So summer and Christmas. Mainly for the parents and families and friends. And then another 2 times in the year, they cooperate with another NGO here called Seven Spirit. It's a Japanese-run program for arts and sports and music. So that makes it 4 times a year for the kids to perform, plus at Sinfonia. So it's growing. The number of concerts are growing. We're still...
And I'm sure the kids are super excited.
Yes.
Yeah, like getting to perform in front of people.
That's
is
right.
Fun.
Yeah. I could feel the energy yesterday. They were the first ones to arrive on the stage. The choir, I could really feel their energy. So, yeah. It's definitely very inspiring for them. And to be exposed to such a high level of beautiful music. Wow. Yeah. It's a work in progress. We follow according to what's offered to us also. And there's a group we're developing. It's called Archipelago. We're helping to develop, So we had 2 classical guitarists from Manila and a string quartet. A handful of string players. Quintet. They did performances last November. So Sinfonia and Archipelago are 2 groups of artists, really maybe top level for our country standards. It's going to cost an arm and a leg to continue developing them, so we need to figure out the math. But we do want to take them to different schools and audiences in the coming years, because it's really worth it for us. Even if the heart of our program is the children's education in music, they also graduate into these programs, these groups of performers eventually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an ecosystem for music. So the music education and performances, right? So they receive their education and then they perform.
Yeah, because...
Or witness performances.
Yeah, because without the performances...
What for?
Yeah, it's not what for, because there's a lot of things to gain from learning music. But, the performances really does help motivate
and it's also
people to learn.
It's also the best way to see how well they've learned, the way they perform.
Yeah, that's true.
It's also true that true learning is when you start giving. You share what you have. That's when you really learn. Not when you start sharing what you have received. No, when you share it with others.
Yeah, that's especially true with music. I remember. Yeah, playing live, playing in front of people, it's a totally different, feeling. Like, you can be a bedroom musician, and then you can be really good, and then the first time you play in front of somebody, wow, night and day. It's all of a sudden your heart's beating fast, your fingers are shaking. No? I'd like to end, unless you guys have anything else to add, no? But one thing I was thinking about was, so how does an NGO get around from having to always look for funding? Or is that like a unicorn? Is that like
No, that's a good question. A very practical, ideal answer is that every nonprofit organization should have a business that runs to support it. So you can say a bit more about that.
Now, if you look into all the big foundations, all of them survive basically because there are businesses that support them. Or there was a trust fund from a very, very rich family, things like that. But it is important that there is a business that supports you to keep you running. Now, that's why also in the law, businesses were required to do CSR, corporate social responsibility, because they go hand in hand. No, you cannot just keep doing business without taking care of society.
what is the law for that? What is
There's
the
a
law?
certain percentage that they have to give to for social development.
Would you know the percentage? I'm curious.
No, right now it's not in my head,
Okay.
but there is a certain
Now
cap.
they're good.
That they up to that point, and it's all they can have that deducted from their taxes. Now, for example, Telstra, they have they sponsor the computer library, the computer room of the other NGO that I'm working with. Telu sponsored the filmmaking project that I did with that NGO also, and then us with Rafi. Rafi is backed by companies.
Oh yeah, huge companies.
Huge companies. No, even Ayala Foundation, Metrobank Foundation, they're all backed by and even for example, you take a look at World Vision and you look into who's backing them. They're all businesses, big businesses doing CSR. Several businesses. So you you create your own. Some are good at it. Some NGOs, because there's somebody there who has a business mind and is able to create a business, that will sustain your NGO. Or you partner with a company, who's willing, who has the same desire to help society in the way, who's aligned with your goals. So you really need somebody supporting you. Otherwise, because it's a non-profit, you have to understand.
Yeah, by nature.
Yeah, by nature. Although the way it runs, it's also like a business, because you're selling a product and those are your programs. It's also like a business, the way it runs, and people buy into it, and so you have money to proceed with your program, and you're able to give them possibilities of advertising their products, to promoting their products in your concerts.
I guess that becomes when you guys have events, I suppose there's some companies who are donors, and then that's where their logos come out.
Yes.
Thank you to so and so,
Yes.
that sort of thing.
So it has to be how do you call this? It's a relationship between the.
It's mutually beneficial.
Yeah. It's for both. So there are some companies, they don't have time to build their own CSR, so they partner with an NGO. Some companies, they put up their own foundation, but they support other NGOs.
Aside from Rafi, are you guys connected to any other?
Yeah, Salud Borromeo Foundation also has an annual grant that it gives us. And we have a handful of individuals. A Park Lane Hotel also sponsors the studies of one of our students, our base student. So for the next 3 or 4 years, it's from their John Ford Colley's scholarship fund. I think they've chosen 4 young Cebuanos who are gifted in different fields, and they chose one of our students for that.
Oh, really? So
Yes.
it's that specific. It's not like they don't just give you a number like, here's 500,000.
No.
It's very specific.
It's
Yeah.
yes. So aside from Rafi and Salud Borromeo Foundation and Park Lane, there's a handful of individuals and companies that support directly the studies of a student, or the general fund of SP, which means for operations or whatever we need it for. Yeah, it's maybe 20% of what we need. So we have to keep, being very creative about keeping the funds coming until we have the right accreditations. Then I think we'll get to
Then
breathe
you
a
think
bit
it'll
better.
be easier.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I learned a lot.
Very good questions. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah. Is there anything that I missed? Anything that you want to share?
I think we're good for now.
Good. Where can people find you?
Okay, so we have a website, sistemangpilipino.org. That's SISTEMANGPILIPINO.org.
I will put it in the show notes. You
Okay.
can link to it. I'll link to it there.
And facebook.com/Sistemang Pilipino. Those are the two main things we update often. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Lianne. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you also, Carlo.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Lianne and Aurelio. If you want to start an NGO, let me know about it. I'd like to hear about what you want to do. And I hope this episode helped you out. Yeah, because really, we can always use somebody trying to make a difference in this world. And if you want to make a difference, I want to know about it. Yeah. Just send me a message on Instagram. Instagram.com/sobermusings. That's my personal Instagram. Instagram has become my favorite social media. I mean, I don't really use Twitter, and then Facebook is there, but I just, I don't. It's there, but Instagram, man, Instagram is fun. And thank you to Mr. Griddle for sponsoring the podcast. Music is Piano March by the Audionautics. If you want to support this podcast, if you want to support 032 Conversations, I urge you to become a Patreon subscriber. Head on over to 032.patreon.com. There's a whole bunch of exclusive stuff available only to Patreon subscribers. So do it. If you think this podcast has been helpful to you, this is the best way to do it. The next best way is to just buy 032 merchandise. You can get 032 merchandise at assembly.032.com. And hint, if you go there right now, there's a little bit of a sale. Just check it out. I'm going to announce it in the first week of March. But if you're listening to this, thank you for listening. And there's a sale in the Assembly online. Head on over to assembly.032.com. Also, the other way to support the show is to share this episode on social media or leave a rating on iTunes. The more listeners we get, gives us a better chance of continuing to do this show. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. And goodbye. Cheers. See you next Tuesday. Bye.